Hey, everybody. Welcome to a minus 30 plus day here in Nebraska on Blue Collar Sports Talk, December the 22nd.
Did it work out perfect? First day of winter yesterday, and we wake up to this.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't write it much better than that.
Right. So on this cold day, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to Laura. Happy super cold birthday.
Happy birthday.
That was James.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
And that was Roger.
Yep.
Let's start off with some Husker stuff.
Man, the women basketball team doesn't get enough publicity. I'm just saying.
Triple overtime thriller last night against ranked number 20 Kansas, who they have a perennial center on the Kansas team. And you were saying she had how many rebounds?
20, 21.
She had 21 rebounds and 18 points. So she had a double-double. Alexis Markowski also had a double-double. She had 10 rebounds and 18 points. I found it awesome that we had Maggie Mendelson in the game, and she was 1 rebound and 1 point away from having a double-double. She had 9 rebounds and 9 points. And for someone who spent the entire offseason with a volleyball team, you could tell like the gel wasn't completely there, but how she incorporated herself into the offense and on the defensive side.
Defensive side, yeah.
She was ripping rebounds away. It was a great game for me. Just amazing. 85-79 at home, 3 overtime thriller.
So if you went down the box score and wondering how they won the game, Kansas had 91 shots to Nebraska 73. Okay, well, that looks like a loss. Out-rebounded 68-46. And on the offensive side was 25-9. So again, that would look like a loss. They had more steals, 11-9. Blocks were 8-6, so you're fairly close. But then you look at the three-pointers. Nebraska was 10 of 28, 5 of 17. So that kept them in it.
Shooting percentage.
Right. And then in that triple overtime, those threes at the thing to put them over helped them win it. But, yeah, going down the stat line, you're like, how did they win this game? But, yeah, Kansas winning games by over 20 points a game. For Nebraska to be in that game like they were, granted, they were at home, but still.
Oh, it was
what a battle test right there.
It was
huge.
It was great. I'm crossing my fingers because Allison Widener also went down, and
Yes.
I haven't heard what her injury is, but she was on the bench for the rest of the game.
Yep, she went for a loose ball, something in the corner. They weren't sure if she banged her knee on a table or a chair or if she rolled an ankle.
The video camera guy's chair. That's who she went into.
That's who she went into.
Yeah, it was. Oh man, I felt so sorry for her because she is Miss Hustle. She gives 100% every single play, and she was like this close to stopping them, and then that's the unfortunate thing. You have all those obstacles right there on the edge of the court.
Yeah. And when even in the NBA, when I see the players go crashing into those guys, I never feel for them. Now, the whole Rodman kick on that guy, I thought that was a bit excessive. But when they crashed into him, like, you should be moving. I understand you're at a sitting position and you want the shot of a lifetime, blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, players get hurt when you get a camera to the face or in the, junk or something.
Now, conversely, I understand what you're saying. So I want you to go into the seat of the camera guy. You may not even know that person is coming to you because you're laser focused on your viewfinder, and you don't necessarily understand all of your surroundings. You just know your world in the viewfinder. So I see both sides of it, man.
Right.
I wish we could have all the greatest camera angles and not have the danger of all the people there on the side, whether it's videographers or the still photographers. But I know exactly what you're saying, and it's scary that she had to have that injury.
And it doesn't get easier for them. They got the number 19 team on the 28th, so they get a few days rest, and then you get Michigan, thankfully at home. So hopefully the fans go out and hit them up that game. It's another 6 o'clock game, and that one will actually be on BTN, so that's a big plus. But, yeah, they followed up after beating number 20. Maybe they can get another top 25 win and get this thing rolling. I mean, they're 10-3. They deserve a lot of love.
Well, I thought that was amazing that we stopped Kansas in its track of its 10-win streak. So kudos to all of the Huskers. December 28th, number 19, Michigan is our next at home. It's on BTN at 6 p.m. I'm going to leave some links in here because I have a few other notes on our Huskers. Specifically, the amount of work that our players put in, not just on the courts or on the fields, but in the classroom. Lexi Rodriguez was named Academic All-American, and she is carrying a 3.6 GPA, majoring in advertising and public relations.
Nice.
So I want you to think about that. Not only did they have a season, they went deep into the tournament, into the Sweet 16. So the amount of time that Coach Cook makes you focus on your sport, but also then she did everything she could to be at a 3.64. Amazing. Markowski, Big Ten Player of the Week. Previous to the Kansas game, she had 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks against Wyoming and scored the game's first 7 points.
Ooh.
Huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Other things of note, everybody knows what yesterday was if you're a football fan.
Signing
it was the
day.
signing day.
Ooh-wee.
And I'm going to leave a link because Nebraska scored 12 in-state signees. I'm not going to break down all the 4 stars or 5 stars or if we even had that, but I'll leave a link for the signing days for Huskers and for Lexi Rodriguez and for Markowski's Big Ten Player of the Week. The men played December 29th at home against Iowa. That is also a Big Ten match at 6 p.m.
And Iowa's coming off, not to take a jab at Iowa, but, you beat us too. They were favored by 31.5 points, lost by 9. The biggest upset in Division I right now, ever. Duke had it at 27 points, and now Iowa has it at 31.5. They got upset by Eastern Illinois yesterday. That
was huge.
That's crazy. To go in a game, I'm sure the coaches don't even bring it up that they're 30-point underdogs, but let's just go in there and have fun, you guys. Let's play some basketball. Holy cow. We're in this, we're tied at 55. All right, well, let's try to win this thing. They scored 90-some points on an Iowa team that's usually known for pretty good defense. Wow. That was my shocker yesterday when I was looking at that this morning. I was like, no way. Let me do some reading on this.
You know who I hope shocks us? Matt Rule next year for the Huskers. So, again, I'm going to leave a link for all of the signing stuff that happened yesterday. We're going to move on to the world of NFL. We're going to do a fun recap of last week's.
Oh.
We have, 4 games that Roger said we need to talk about these crazy games. So I want to kick it off. And Roger, should we start with the Patriots and Raiders?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Patriots and Raiders was just the craziest finish that I have seen in a long time. And I mean, this is a close game, right? It should be a close game. And it is. You could have gone to overtime.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Roger?
Well, yeah, watching that, I didn't know exactly what was going on, why they started ladder on that, why didn't they just take a knee? But, the way Bill Belichick's head works sometimes, I'm just, I wonder if the players weren't told, just keep that ball alive and let's just see if we can get something to happen. I mean, because the thing is you start ladling it around and then just start getting a little physical with the other team. I mean, I just crazy thoughts go through my head when I seen that, and I'm like, well, why would they even start doing that? But do you think the Patriots were looking for a penalty? I mean,
let's just say
start laddering it, and then let's just start getting a little physical, and maybe the Raiders get mad and throw a punch, and then we get a penalty, and then we get a field goal for a 1-on-time down.
Right. That's a great way to look at it because you can't end a game on a defensive penalty.
Yeah. So I was just like, well, that's Bill Belichick, and I mean, it's possible he could start thinking crazy like that, but I don't think Bill Belichick told him to throw the ball 15 yards behind the line, and I don't know, but I watched the replay a few times, and that ball was in the air so long, Mac Jones could have come up and made that tackle. but he just watched the guy catch it.
Right.
And then, of course, then he's trying to tackle him, like trying to get in his way. And then the guy just stiff arms him to the ground. If he would have just come up and just, grabbed his legs, right away, while but Mac Jones just sat there and watched him catch it, and then he tried to make the tackle.
That's why he's on offense and not on defense.
Yeah. That's why he's a quarterback.
I mean, Chandler Jones ran it for 48 yards, and the stiff arm on Mac Jones.
Oh, my gosh, dude.
He'll remember that forever.
I'm guessing those players were told to keep that ball alive, though. I can't imagine them just doing that on their own. But who knows?
Yeah, I agree. When I saw it, I'm like you. You're at midfield. I didn't even think about maybe trying to get a defensive penalty. I was like, okay, you're going to try to run the clock out, make sure there's not another down, whatever. But you knew there wasn't that much time to begin with, or the player should have known.
Yeah.
So I don't need to throw it back across the field. One, I'm throwing it back across the field to my quarterback. Really? That's who we want to have the ball?
He didn't even need to throw that. He could have kept going for a little bit longer.
Right. But, I mean, if I'm looking to throw, and it looked like, he was under duress and he's just kind of throwing it, but the last person when you're laterally the ball that you want to get the quarterback is probably one of your linemen or the quarterback.
Yeah.
Don't give them the ball.
No.
No, good things just don't happen. He's not a running quarterback. It's not like you're throwing it back to Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. You're throwing it to Mac Jones. So, even if they were told, I would, it's one of those things where, hey, don't throw it to Mac. Anyone but Mac, okay? And that's why he's standing back the other way, and then he sees it coming his way, and he's like, he told me not to get the ball.
But he's a halfway decent runner on his own. But I agree with you.
Right.
To me, that was the most asinine play I've ever seen, where you can take it to overtime, you improve the odds, but they didn't.
Yeah, this ain't the first time I've seen the Patriots make a really bad choice on special teams. It was a few years ago when, they were down to Miami, or they were up on Miami, and Miami did this lateral thing, lateraled it like 5 or 6 times,
and they scored. Right.
And he had Rob Gronkowski on the special teams.
Yes.
And that guy just kind of looked at Rob Gronkowski and just did a little hip move and ran around him, and everybody was like, why is Rob Gronkowski on the special teams?
So they were
he's a great tight end, but he's not a
tackler.
He's not a speedster. He's not a tackler. He's not,
They were expecting Hail Mary. That was another ball that was around the 45, 50-yard line.
Okay,
they were expecting the Miami to do the throw it in, and Gronk was the big body, get in the way, knock the ball down.
Yeah, that makes a little sense there.
And they threw the wrinkle in it, like, hey, let's try this couple rattle. And the Kenyon, I think it was Kayvon, got it. It ended up in the running back's hand, the guy you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, he made a couple moves, and he's like, yeah, Gronk, you're not tackling me. Yeah, right in the end zone for the game winner. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna move it on to the next one, and this was a game of mistakes. Bengals at Bucs.
Oh, my
Tom
goodness.
Brady was previously 89-0, went up by 17. He's now 89-1. James, what do you think about this game?
So we're watching it. We went to a friend's house, and we're, watched I don't know if you can call it a Cowboys game, but the first half was entertaining.
We'll get to that.
Right.
Let's focus on this one.
We're playing a game at the same time. Little, friends get together, eating, drinking, playing a game, and the game's on TV, and I'm watching it. And my son's a big Cincinnati fan. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even gonna let him know. This is just ugly. Because since the Bucs were playing the best football I had seen them play probably since week 1 against the Cowboys. 17 straight points. Brady looked in the zone. The receivers were getting open. They're, not running the ball great, but just moving it enough. They dumped it off to Fournette a few times. I was like, okay, well, I definitely picked this wrong because I would put Tampa out to bed. That to me, like I said, I think they're done. And there's 17 points. I was like, okay. Well, next thing I know, I said, hey, dude, they just turned the ball over. Oh my gosh, dude, they just turned the ball over again. 4 straight turnovers. Cincinnati was like, oh, hell no. No. I think they just finally realized that they were getting beat by a 50-year-old. So they were like, wait, whoa, time out.
And it was always on the short side of the field.
Yes, right.
Because Brady ended up with more yards. Burrow had just 200 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. He did have an interception, but he targeted 7 different receivers, and they gave him just a short field every single turnover.
34 points, 4 touchdowns, and you don't even get 300 yards. Yeah.
They outscored the Patriots the Buccaneers 34-0 after they started out 17-0. So it just, I didn't watch any of the game, but watching the highlights and stuff like that. I mean, Bengals look like the best team in the AFC. I believe that. But yeah, that was just a crazy game the way it started out, because I thought they were going to beat them from beginning to end. But yeah, I was shocked to see it 17-0. But that's kind of a Burrow thing. He likes to come back.
Yep.
He was calm. He was calm, cool, and collected.
Every time, yeah. It's almost like last year, in the playoffs, they didn't even start playing as they were down 10 points. And then, even the Kansas City game, I was like, dude, they can't do this against good teams. And they did it. Got the stops, came back and won, and ended up in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, they're definitely, I don't know if a coach likes you to be comfortable playing from behind, but, it's okay to play from the lead. It's all right.
I'm going to give Brady one accolade on that loss. He owned his mistakes.
Did he?
He owned it. Like a true leader. He said, that was on me. He's like, you can't win with 2 interceptions and 2 lost fumbles. And he said, that was my fault. He's like, that one throw was horrible. That fumble, that was horrible. So that's the one bright spot for Tom Brady on his loss, that he owned his mistakes.
Yeah. He's like, oh.
Okay, let's look at the next one. This is the game that I shut off. This is the Colts at the Vikings. The Colts were up 33-0 at half. I shut this off. At
Minnesota, and it would be nice if somebody had that little quiet stat, how many people left that game at halftime in Minnesota. Like, they're like, we're going to lose to the Colts. I'm not sitting here through this.
Yeah, I'm a Vikings fan. I'm like, I can't take this punishment anymore.
Yeah.
And then you all text me, and I'm like, thank you. I'll turn it back on. This is amazing.
Yeah. And it wasn't turnovers. It wasn't like the Bucs with 4 turnovers. Not that we're getting to that game now, but the Cowboys games, it wasn't turnovers. The D got stops. And then the offense was like, yeah. So apparently Patrick Peterson at halftime said, hey, we're going to get the stops. You guys need 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you heard that. The way he said it is, you just need 5 touchdowns.
Just 5.
Just 5. Okay, that's nothing. That's his actual quote. He's quoted as saying, you just need 5 touchdowns. That's nothing. We'll do our part on the defense.
But and Minnesota barely gets 5 touchdowns in a game, and Patrick's asking for Kirk Cousins, hey, can you get them in a half? Because, by the way, Colts almost did.
Kirk Cousins passed for 460 yards.
In the second half.
And 5 touchdowns by the whole offense. I mean, are you kidding me? That was nuts. Okay.
Yeah, watching that game, or not watching it, but listening to that game, because I did listen to quite a bit of it, especially the second half. It reminded me a lot of the Falcons Super Bowl when they lost that to the Patriots. Not only did the Vikings come back, but they really didn't start coming back until 5 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Right.
I mean, the Vikings did score a touchdown, but it was like on their second or third possession. And then the Colts went right back down the field and kicked a field goal. So, I mean, that was just a 4-point change there. So then in the next, whatever it was, in the next 20 minutes, that's when they outscored them 36-0 or whatever it was. It was just crazy. And like I said, it just reminded me so much of the Falcons, because that Super Bowl, the Falcons came out and, basically dominated the first 10 minutes of that third quarter. It was 7-0. And then all of a sudden the wheels fell off and the Patriots outscored them, 31-0 the rest of the game. And,
right.
And I mean, and looking at this game here, I'm like, that is Super Bowl 51 all over again. 2 different teams, but same thing.
Yeah. And to lead into the next game, when you're the Colts and you're up 33-0 at halftime, you should still make adjustments on the defensive side. Even though it's working, they're going to make some plays. The defense has to look at themselves in the mirror, and I get it. Offense that makes stops and get their, the offense for stopped and getting put up more points. But the defense didn't get off the field. If you were doing your 3 and outs, or at least maybe 1 first down and forcing a punt and not giving up these drives, you might not be tired. So you flip to the Cowboys and Jags, same thing. You're up 27-10 in the second half. And granted, Dak, they'd been nice to get another touchdown or field goal or somewhere in there. That'd been fine. But if the defense would have stopped when they were supposed to on their third down, 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 5s, not give up a first down, or on second down, not give up a 27-yard play, when a team scores 33 points, I don't care if it's in a half or the game, that's enough to win in the NFL, So, moving on to the Cowboys game, you're up 27-10. That should be close it out. One, you're a 10-win team. You're not the Colts who have been struggling all year off and on, and they're playing a really good Minnesota team. The Cowboys, as a team, should be like, hey, this defense that was trying to self-proclaim themselves new doomsday defense because they played well early. And, obviously the Green Bay game and all the yards rushing, and then they had a couple good games. You can't be giving up 40 points to the Jags. Granted, it was a pick six, so it's 34 points, but still,
Yeah.
Up 21-7.5.
Right.
Yes.
To a second-year quarterback who is now feeling comfortable. He has one of the weapons he had in college, ATN, who actually outrushed Pollard. Pollard ended with 75 yards. Elliott ended with 58, and ATN had 103 yards rushing. So something's going on with the Cowboys defense.
Yes, they do have a couple injuries on the defensive tackle side. Hankins was out. They really miss him. Borhana's been hurt. Van Der Esch went out with a stinger early in the first quarter. And this is where I don't know if it's McCarthy's call or if it's Quinn's. But right then when LV went out, Van Der Esch went out, and you're struggling in that middle, Barr's not getting it done, you have to put Micah back out there at the linebacker. Hey, we don't disagree, you're a great pass rusher, but right now, our middle linebacker spot needs you. And that's where Quinn and them should have made that decision that second half, or at least when the score got close and they started running the ball as well as they were. Hey, we need a middle linebacker, man, and you're the best one we can put. We're going to move you back, get that Sam Williams, that rookie over there. You got Dorrance Armstrong, you put it that defensive inside opposite of Lawrence. And I heard that they're not quite sure about Leighton this week against the Eagles, and they're talking about maybe moving Micah back. And I'm like, that's his natural position anyway. Move him back there. We have enough pass rushers. And oh, by the way, they weren't doing a job anyway. It's not like they had 5 sacks and Micah was tearing it up and you don't want to get him out of his groove. They sacked him one time. They even knew they were passing that last possession to tie the game, a field goal, and they couldn't tee off and go get him? Really?
Dak just had 2 interceptions and 3 touchdowns. And Trevor Lawrence had 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. But they looked soft in the second half.
Yes,
they came out and they got pushed around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, watching the highlights on this game, it's, Cowboys scored 34 points. I mean, now that's enough to win ball games.
Yes.
I mean, there was only 2 teams that scored over 34 points last week. And that was the Vikings and the Colts in that mess of a game that they had. So, I mean, 34 points is enough. Now, I said last week, the Cowboys need to quit turning the ball over. And they did turn the ball over. But Jags turned the ball over too. Right. Actually, the defense stripped Trevor Lawrence and got the ball back with, a minute 20. And
at midfield.
Yeah, and Dak could not manufacture a first down. Matters of fact, they threw on third down and gave Jags a timeout to work with too.
Yep.
So again, I say you got to run the ball. If you can't get a first down, at least make them use up all their timeouts.
Yep.
But again, the defense took away takeaways, but they turned it over again. And sure enough, this game, the Cowboys made the last turnover, and it turned into 6 points, and they lost. And then that's just what I think is going to happen in the playoffs if they turn the ball over. They need to clean up the turnovers. Like I said, they're scoring 34 points, so they're scoring enough. They
even with the turnovers, they're scoring 30. I mean, they're still averaging over 25 a game since Dak's been back.
Yeah.
They're the highest scoring offense with the turnovers. Dak's thrown more picks than anybody else since he's come back from his finger, his highest interception percentage, and yet still putting up almost 30 points a game.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm not trying to get the turnovers a pass.
No, yeah.
But when you're talking about that sack and then getting that throw, that was 3rd and 10. And I would get it if you're throwing it down. And I didn't get it either. I was expecting a soft underneath pass, maybe a 6-7 yarder, make him waste that last time out. But he threw it deep. Not only did he throw it deep down the sideline, he threw it to Noah Brown, not CeeDee Lamb, not Michael Gallup, not Dalton Schultz. Literally your 4th target, not Marcus Pollard, Noah Brown, your possession receiver. You called him to go 20, 30 yards down the sideline and fight a corner for a ball. And it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
On a 3rd and 10. So
Yeah,
Kellen Moore or Dak, whoever made that call, that was a horrible call.
Yeah.
And that one timeout cost them because they had that timeout to save themselves to get back and kick that field goal.
I understand what you're saying, but I look at it a little bit differently. I don't care who you throw it to. You're a professional. You need to catch it.
Fact.
And you need to go after the ball. For me, this almost smelled like we looked past the Jaguars because we're looking at the Eagles next week, and that really bit them. That really bit them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Fact.
they're not closing out games. Now, who is closing out games is the Jaguars. They beat the Titans, and then the following week they come in and beat the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So on that note, that ends our recap, and we're going to look at the upcoming games. One starting tonight. James has one more point. Go ahead.
By the way, the first time in the NFL, 3 separate games coming back from 17 points in one weekend. Another record for them.
And one of them
Nuts.
was an all-time record. For
all time.
Yeah.
My favorite record that got broken was Brady's 89-0 when he's leading by
goodness.
17.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice.
So
Yeah. The guy's been playing 20-plus years. He's got one blemish on his record.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I read a lot about those games, and I read a lot about Brady. And Cliff Kingsbury was quoted in an article going, I probably would have been a better quarterback if I would have put in as much work and time and dedication as Tom Brady, because it's evident. He's still playing at such a high level at this age. And you can tell he was a little frustrated at times because he did some stuff. Like Dak did some stuff when he got frustrated. Everybody does stuff that they shouldn't when they're frustrated. Take a chill pill. Do what Joe Burrows does. I don't know if he's meditating on the sideline, but man, the guy was just even.
Right. It's like he doesn't even know what happened 10 minutes. He's got the best short-term memory. So when he goes back out there, it's like the first possession every time. Yeah, he goes back and like, dude, you've already thrown 3 picks. Yeah, but I just threw 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Because some of the Pittsburgh game, the one they just played, I'm not trying to go too far back, but early in that game, you're just like, they can't do anything right. And then all of a sudden it's, this is first, all right, let's do these scripted plays that no, dude, we've been playing for a half. Oh, no, I just started.
Yeah. Tonight's game.
Huge.
Jets started yesterday as a 1.5-point favorite. It's now up to 2. And the overs are set at a whopping, where'd that go? 37. That also went up. So Jets favored by 2 against the Jags. The Jags are at home again. I don't know. Do the Jags continue that 2-win streak and go to 3? And do the Jets continue their loss streak, which sets at 3, and then go to 4 losses?
Yeah. Jets are at home. That's the only reason why I can figure that Jets are favored in this game.
I said that backwards. I said the Jags were at home. Sorry, Roger. Go ahead.
Anyway. But anyway, yeah, Jets are at home. 2-point favorites. I guess I like the Jets at home. I do. We kind of earlier in this year we kind of got on the Jags bandwagon a little bit because they were playing well there for a stretch, and then they turned around and went back on a losing streak. I think Jets are a better all around team, and they're at home, so I'm going to take the Jets at home here on this one.
I'm 50-50. Well, yeah, and James is over there nodding his head. I'm going to stick with the Jags. I just, game time decision, Darrell goes with the Jags, and they continue their 3-win streak, or they continue their winning streak, and Jets go on a 4-loss streak.
I'm sticking with the Jets, but mine's mainly because of the whole Miami thing also. I don't know. Trevor Lawrence isn't historically known for the bad weather. Quarterback, he won at Tennessee. Detroit's in a dome. They lost there 40-14. That was ugly. And then the beating of Dallas was at home, obviously. So going up there, and the reason the over-under is so low, I'm guessing because the weather's going to be crappy. So last week, Jets played Detroit, and Roger was talking about Detroit being able to score, and that Jets defense came to play. They held them 20-17. It was a 4th and short, and a miscommunication on defense gave up that touchdown to that tight end, a 50-yarder, to end up being the game winner. So it's not like the Jets are, I agree, 3-game losing streak. It was Minnesota, 10-win team, Buffalo, best in the AFC, well, next to Cincinnati. And then the Detroit team, who we know it looks like they're going to come back and end up making the playoffs if, things fall the right way. I still like the Jets at home. I don't know if the Jags play great in the cold, but yes, 100% 50-50 game. Both these teams are playing super well. One has come out with the wins, and the other one hasn't. So I'm going to take the home team and the weather.
Weather could definitely be a deciding factor.
Yeah, Jets defense is there every week.
Every week, right.
Every week. So, them being home, defense, I think they frustrate Trevor Lawrence a little bit. I believe the game will be low scoring. The Jets will come out on top.
Yeah, my take is Jags and unders. But if you looked at the last 2 games for the Jags, they've hit the overs. So
I don't even know what the over-under is on this game.
It's like 37. Yeah.
Wow. That's low.
Yeah. But it's supposed to be super windy or really windy. And I don't know if
34 degrees.
Yeah.
But yeah, that can change with this crazy Arctic cold air we have coming in.
Yeah, 37's, that's a pretty low number in the NFL. I mean, I remember a lot of years ago, every game used to be in the 30s, but with the way the offenses are played now and keeping drives alive with all the penalties,
right.
Yeah, it pushes it up into the 40s. But yeah, that's an awful low number. But I'll still stick with the unders on it.
Only reason I'm going unders is because of the weather. It's an unknown factor when you go to New York. So, going to a dome, Giants at the Vikings. Vikings are 11-3. Giants improved to 8-5-1. Another Saturday game, and the Vikings are favored by 4. Overs are set at 48.
So this is one of those games I was looking at it, and I was thinking of Roger. He's been down on the Giants. They're not very good. They're going to implode at the end of the season. And obviously they have been. They haven't been great at the end here. And that's what I had said the same thing about the Vikings. And when I saw that Colts score, and I was like, well, here it is. I said that the Colts were overrated, or the Vikings were overrated, not playing great. They came back. Their defense is still really, really bad. Very, very mediocre to less than mediocre, right? Their offense is really good, but their defense is not very good at all. Giants, on the other hand, is playing with a MASH team. They got second, third string guys out there getting more time than they'd ever thought they were going to. I like New York. I'm going to pick them again. I lost. They won last week against Washington, so I got that one. But they definitely laid an egg against Philly. But this defense, I think, is coming together as even though they're not high picks or highly known people. Jones doesn't turn the ball over. Saquon Barkley's running well. And like I said, I really like the Giants' defense going against the Vikes.
I went 50-50 on this too. Do you have that hangover with all the amount of energy that you put through the last game? Or do you continue on with that energy being so hyped that, hey, we scored 5 touchdowns in the second half. We can do anything if we put our minds to it. So
right.
That's the mindset that I hope they carry on, and that's why I'm taking the Vikings. Not necessarily to cover, but to win. I think the Giants cover. I think they only win by 1 or 2. And I would go all day long on the overs.
Yeah, I have been down on the Giants, and they, to me, they still ain't playing very good football offensively. It's hard to see that this over-under is as high as 48. But I watched a lot of that New York Giants-Washington game, and that Kayvon Thibodeau he's something else, man.
Oh, my gosh, isn't he?
He's something else.
Wow.
And because of him alone, I'm going to take the Giants. I really am.
Okay.
So,
And I'm glad you mentioned Thibodeau because he reminded me of Micah Parsons last year. Is the way he was everywhere, beating his guy, wherever the ball was, he was there, picking it up, getting it, tackling somebody.
yeah, the way
Oh, my goodness.
the way he had that strip sack and then was able to keep his eye on the ball and then get to his feet and get to that ball before everybody else scoop it up
Right.
and bring it in the end zone. That was
Yeah.
I mean, that's an NFL player right there.
And he's coming off an injury, so they're getting him back. And again, that's why I really like the New York defense. And kind of like in that Colts game, they got stops against the Colts. And the Vikings were able to keep scoring. I don't think the Vikes are going to score possession after possession against the New York defense. Like I said, with that pass rush and them linebackers, the secondary is questionable. And Cousins have great weapons. You got Thielen, Jefferson, and the tight end, I don't think his name. But they're there. He's got them. Oh, and by the way, you got Delvin Cook in the backfield. So offensively, Minnesota can't put up points, but I think New York gets enough stops to let them win it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the Giants-Vikings before we move on?
No, I don't believe so.
No.
Okay. James wanted to add a upset of the week, and James, go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't on our list originally. I guess I didn't pay attention, but Atlanta is on the road to Baltimore. And, when I sit there and talked about how bad the Vikes are playing and they're not really a good team, Ravens without Lamar, and that offense has been horrible since they got rid of, their receivers. They don't really give Lamar anybody anyway. The running game has not been nearly what we're used to. And obviously that defense has been very average this year, probably because they've been on the field a lot. I think the Falcons win that, move to 6-9 and making that South even more and more interesting. This week, I said it's a noon game on Christmas Eve. I think Atlanta goes in there. That young quarterback looked pretty good last week. I think they go into Baltimore and get it done.
Yeah, that's huge because Baltimore's favored by 7. Overs are set at 35.5. Roger, what do you think about that?
I think he's crazy.
I love it. Yes,
I'm on the same boat with you. Baltimore still gets it done.
Yeah, that Falcons are not a good football team.
They just do too many mistakes. Earlier in the season, I was hoping, but man.
Now that Falcons running back had a heck of a game last week, that Algier, but that's not enough to win this football game.
He only has 2 touchdowns on the season, but he's got a bunch of yards, over 700 yards.
Yeah.
But if you can't put it in the score hole, man, forget about it.
Yeah.
All right, that's James' upset of the week. He's taking Atlanta on the road. On the road is the Bengals at the Patriots. Patriots are 7-7, coming off just that amazing finish. And the Bengals are 10-4. Burrow is just, again, kind of the Zen master when he's behind the 8 ball, so to speak. They are favored by 3 with over set at 41.5, and it's supposed to be a chilly 32-degree day in New England. What are our thoughts?
Again, my son's a huge Cincinnati fan, and I just hope they play with the lead the entire time. So, New England's hasn't beat anyone above 500 this year. Their 7 wins are all against teams below 500. As much as we talked about their quarterback position, Mac Jones has regressed all year. And I don't know if I can put the blame on Mac Jones when you don't even have a real offensive coordinator as your offensive coordinator. Belichick rolled the dice and said, I'm still a genius. I'm going to put a defensive guy in charge of my offense, and no one's going to notice. Well, it notices because your quarterback, who looked really decent last year and supposed to be a step up this year, definitely is not. And you're going against the Cincinnati team who can score. And the Patriots, in their last few games, I got 24 against the Raiders and 27 against Arizona. Other than that, they just don't really score. So I'm taking Cincinnati all day. I would not be surprised if New England jumped out to a 10-0 lead early and Cincinnati came back just because Joe Burrow likes to mess with Zach Taylor, I guess. But yeah, I think Cincinnati wins this fairly easily in New England at the end. I don't know if I'm betting the over-unders in the first half or who I would take if we're doing first half bets. But since I said New England hasn't beat anyone above 500, they're a mediocre team, and I think it has to do with a defensive running an offensive side of the ball.
Bengals are on a 6-win streak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fact that Bengals are favored in this game at New England's, to me, it shows that everybody believes the Bengals are a better team, and I believe they get it done. Mac Jones is not playing real well. Bengals defense isn't bad. So, again, this being probably played in cold weather in New England, it'll be a lower scoring game, but I believe the Bengals get it done.
I was honestly surprised by the 3 points until I started looking at this. And then Bengals just win.
Right.
They don't necessarily cover. They just win. Yeah.
The only thing I think the Bengals should start doing a little bit better is running the ball. They do have an aging running back in Mixon. Perrine's not great. He kind of gets the job done. He's a good complimentary a little bit. But on the season, rushing the ball hasn't been, obviously you got Joe Burrow, so he can throw it around the field. But they're barely rushing for 100 yards a game, So it's one of those things where, again, you had talked about the weather and these, getting late in the season. Teams got to be able to run the ball, and I think, it's just a good game for Cincinnati, maybe to run the ball 30, 35 times. Yeah.
And Joe, Anyway, Joe Burrow is getting actually protection from his offensive line now. So
yes.
So that's huge. That's huge. He's not getting sacked 5-6 times a game. So
he must have went out and got him a Thanksgiving gift and said, hey, if you guys can just give me another half a sec.
Yep.
But yes, you're right. I noticed it back in the Pittsburgh game. I think it was Pittsburgh they were playing or Tennessee, one of those two. Me and my son, I was like, Joe likes to hold on to the ball. We all know this. But I was like, dude, that line's starting to play a little bit better, starting to find their gel or just holding their blocks a little bit more. Yeah. I said it hasn't been great for the run game side, but yeah, give them that extra little bit, especially when they get behind. All of a sudden, they're like, okay, let's lock it in. But yeah, they've been really good. Really good.
Let's look at moving on. Let's look at the Eagles and the Cowboys. I just read that Hurt is out and they're going to go with Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, and I think that's been the thing all week. I guess they have to leave it, make the Cowboys practice for both. But I don't think in the normal sports world with all the networks and Joe Blows and all these Monday morning quarterbacks like us had any inclination Jalen was playing this weekend. I had no doubts he was sitting out. Yeah. Me and my sons talked about it, and they were like, what do you think? And I was like, he won't play. I said, they can lose to Dallas and still win the division, Yes. I said, I don't think they take a chance of him just for this to, save face. And it's a bigger slap in the face when they beat the Cowboys with Minshew and without Jalen Hurts. They're like, well, we lost to you. We beat you with your backup, and we beat you with our backup. So, yeah. Philly has nothing to lose in this game. It's at Dallas. Dallas is favored. How? I have no idea. Because, honestly, when you talk 50-50 game, now it's back to, Nebraska. Hey, do you think Nebraska's going to win? I'm like, well, which quarterback's going to show up? For me, it's which Cowboys does it. Cowboys defense, man up finally, looking past the Tennessee, looking past Jacksonville for this game. Is this what we've been waiting on? And now they're going to step up, and I'll pick Philly to win. And then Dallas is like, oh, no, we're ready this whole time. Well, you're not playing like it, like we've said. Their defense has been very bad. they're putting up 30 points a game and still almost losing or lost, obviously, last week. You know, you lost to Green Bay looking past that game, whatever reason, you know. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm picking Philly just because they seem to be more complete, more ready for the moment. And right now, Dak and the Cowboys seem very average.
Yeah, it just seems like Dallas is playing to lose every week, you know. Their defense has bailed them out several times. But with the Eagles having Gardner Minshew, and I don't think Gardner Minshew ever comes in and plays bad.
Nope.
But with the Cowboys, you know, scoring 34 points last week, I think if they can score 34 points again, they're going to win.
True.
I don't believe the Eagles will keep up with that. So they just need to clean up their turnovers. And I'm going to say they get it done this week against the Eagles. They're at home. I think they play good in front of their home crowd. Get them fired up. You know, you beat the best team in the NFL at home. I mean, that's what more confidence can you have? I mean, they need to play clean, and they need to get this game won this week.
Yesterday, the line was 5, and it went up to 6 when they found out Gardner Minshew is out. And then the overs went down 0.5 point to 46.5. But I'm taking the Eagles. The Cowboys have just proved that any given week they can be beaten.
Yeah.
Besides the Vikings game, which completely floored me.
Yeah, I think this, like I said, I think this game can pump up the fans or deflate them completely. Yeah. They lose at home against a backup quarterback in the Eagles. It could deflate them. So we'll see.
And when you talk about cleaning up, a lot of people were on McCarthy because of the penalties early in the season. They were tops in the leagues in penalties, blah, blah. Their last few games, their penalties have been next to nothing. They haven't cost them drives. They haven't cost them a touchdown, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, coaching been knocking it out. But then when you look at it, okay, well, what's wrong with the team? You know, you're going to point fingers at McCarthy and be like, oh, I'm like, well, the game plans look solid. But like you said, you got to clean up the mistakes. You know, the missed tackles against Jacksonville. You're giving up these runs where you're out of position, over pursue, bad angles. The cornerback with Calvin Joseph on that touchdown, a stop and go type thing, and you got beat bad. No sacks on against a team that was giving up sacks. The line is not nearly as good, you know. So, yeah, to me, I don't know if I could put this on McCarthy as far as the players not making the plays. And on the flip side, you got the Eagles who have their own kind of injuries. They haven't had nearly the injuries. This is probably their biggest test with Jalen Hurts being out. But their players are stepping up and want to do this. The Cowboys need to get back to that Minnesota game where they're like, you know what? We need to show the nation that we are the Cowboys and we got the talent on the team. On paper, they look great. You know, they got 7 Pro Bowlers for crying out loud. Philly got 8, the most. So they're right there with them as far as you look at it on paper, but you got to get done.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think it happens. Earlier in the season, the Cowboys had a little bit of an edge on points allowed per game, and now it's flipped to the Eagles, a little bit of an edge. And as a Cowboys fan, it pains me to say that the Eagles are going to win in Dallas, but if one mistake is all it will take for the Eagles to pounce, and then you're not going to come back from that. They have the momentum at home. The crowd goes quiet. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but that's why they play.
On a side note, for the Cowboys and the plus side, the last time Dak lost an NFC East game was 2019 to the Eagles in Week 16. So he's been beating the East game after game. You know, if he can keep that going at home, at home. I knew what you were saying. I was hoping you put that in there because I was going to say, well, that is definitely at home. But. Right. But yeah, so he plays the East extremely well at home. I hope it continues. Again, you got to pick what they're doing. So what I've seen the last couple of weeks, you can't play that kind of football and beat a team like the Eagles right now.
Definitely not. Let's take a look at some hoops.
Oh my gosh, the Celtics are just driving me nuts. I know we're not on that game, but
no.
Saying,
Let's roll right into that one.
Goodness,
let's roll right into that one. That's a Friday game. They're at home. Timberwolves. The Celtics are on a slide, and it's rough.
And last night they looked better than they have the previous games of their slide, to where, and I just can't put a finger on it. One game they'll be out rebounded, but they'll shoot decent. They won't shoot very good. Then they get out rebounded badly. Points in the paint is really lopsided.
So when I texted you yesterday, it was almost half, and they were down by what, 3,000 points?
Right, close, yeah, somewhere in there.
Gosh. And then they came back and they lose by 5. So they have to stop that mentality. And this is something that's been going on since Paul Pierce was there. Paul Pierce, for whatever reason, loved to play from behind. And there was a game that they were down by 30 or something ridiculous, and he came back and win it. I want you to be ahead and don't have to worry about coming back. Where is that? Where is that defensive mindset where we're going to hold our opponents to under 100?
Right. Where's the team pride? Well, we talked about that earlier this season as, there's no defense in the NBA. Where is that early pride where you're like, my job is to shut this other team down? Their only win in the last 6 games are against the lowly Lakers, who took them to overtime. So, they lost to Orlando, for crying out loud, twice, back-to-back games. Really? Oh, man.
And Minnesota is just coming off a split. They played Dallas twice, once on the 19th, once on the 21st, and they beat them once, and then they lost just most recently. But the Timberwolves have beaten Chicago, who can play some really great ball. The Timberwolves have beaten OKC, who, in my mind, has one of the greatest players playing right now, who probably won't get the MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because he's not on a winning team, but the dude is money.
Man.
So, do the Celtics figure it out?
They got to, right?
Well, Tatum had 41 points in a loss last night.
And it might come down to the bench not playing as well as they were early in the season when they're winning the games. You can get 70 points from Jalen and Tatum, but if the rest of the guys don't do something, we got to get that bench, that 7th, 8th guy, go ahead and get 6, 7 points, 10 points, Start contributing when that second squad comes in to give those guys a breather. And instead of being outscored by 10, keep it even.
Minnesota's sitting at 16-16 right now, and Boston keeps falling. They're 22-10. Now, again, that's not bad. They're still playing great ball, but they're not playing inspired. The whole team isn't playing inspired. And I looked at this and I go, what has changed? Well, Al Horford sat out a few games.
Right.
Robert Williams came back, so now they're trying to get him to gel. So for the last 3 weeks, what has changed is the lineup. Almost every single game, either from injuries. Jason Tatum sat out, they said, for personal reasons. Not sure what that's about, but almost every other game or every single game, they've had a different starting lineup. There's no consistency.
Right. Yeah. And, Jaylen Brown last night, 8 of 23. So, again, the bench just got to score. Cornette, 0 for 2, had no points. Williams played the 22 minutes, not a scorer. He had 6. But White, 0 for 7 with 2 points, and Pritchard, 1 for 4 with 3 points. So that bench has got to come off and put in points. Obviously, though, you're talking about a different lineup. Smart didn't play yesterday. And maybe he's trying to rest in between here and there, but you still got to win these games. There's enough talent on this team. Like we said earlier in the year, this team is deep. There's a lot of good. When you can take Smart out and have White play. When you could take White out and have Pritchard come in, you got talent still there that they shouldn't be losing like they're losing for sure.
So if you have one of the best defenses in the NBA, how do you let a team score 71 points at half? And you only put up 43?
Right. And then you want to play D in the second half.
Because that's when I texted you. I'm like, what the F, dude? Like, what the French toast?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah. Will somebody explain that? I have no idea.
Pick up your man. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Every single game that I've been able to watch that's been televised where they've dropped it and it's because of defensive issues, they start pointing the fingers. Well, you were supposed to have picked him up. Well, you were supposed to have picked him up. Well, you were supposed to have picked him up. Yep. Stop it, dude. Just play the game.
Yeah.
Don't. I coulda, shoulda, woulda. Do it.
Yeah. And they did it early. The first 15 games or so in the season, they played really good D. I mean, they weren't keeping guys under 100, but they were in their face and playing really good D, and that's got them winning games. And then all of a sudden, I don't know. I don't get to see as many, working in the evenings. I'll try to get it and had the worst luck. So last night I go to lunch and like 3 games go to halftime. A couple of basketball games go to halftime. The football game was at halftime. Go to the 9 o'clock break. The Huskers are just going to their next overtime. So I'm waiting for the little interchange time. And then this other game I was watching the Devils, Florida Panthers, intermission. I'm like, I cannot get a break here as far as get a time to watch a game. So yes, when I try to watch Boston, a lot of times it's the start of the game's at 7. So by the time they tip it off, it's 10 after and lunch is over at 7:20. So I'm like, oh, I got to see 7 points.
I cringe every time that the Celtics are on a different network than ESPN because I love the ESPN replays.
Right.
The NBA TV app is horrible on Roku.
Oh my gosh.
Horrible. I hate it. TNT isn't the best, but it's better than NBA. But anyway, okay, so
right.
I'm going on a tangent. But I want to get back to their defense, and they try to make it harder than it really is. And I'm going to quote the boxer, the Tasmanian Devil.
Oh.
There's a movie called Bleed for This, and at the end of it, they ask him, hey, what's one lie that you've been told that wasn't true? And he tells the reporter, well, it's not that easy. And the reporter thinks that he is talking about the question. Well, no, it's an easy question. He's like, no, that's the lie. It's not that easy. Because it is that easy. Just go out and do it. I don't want to hear the excuses. You're on a team. You're professional. You're supposed to be doing it. It is that easy. If you do your assignment, if you play team ball, that's when they lose. When they don't play team ball, when they don't pick up their defensive assignment, when they expect the other guy to cover 2 guys, forget about it. Bucs and Nets, that's the other Friday game. I can't talk about the Celtics anymore because they are just a stinky
very
bag
frustrating
of poopy caca right now. The Bucs and Nets are on NBA TV at 6:30 on Friday. The Nets are playing out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
They put up 143 points last night.
Yeah, but look who they were playing.
Okay. I mean,
it was Golden State on the road. If it was at Golden State, I'd be like, yeah, that was impressive. But at home, Golden State's terrible.
Okay, but the reason I brought that up, neither team played defense.
Yeah.
Right.
Brooklyn allowed them to score 113, and then Brooklyn put up 143 themselves. Yeah. So the Bucs need to figure it out on the road to continue staying in contention in the East. And the Nets, I think, are going to continue to climb.
Yeah, they're 9-1 in the last 10 games. Last night's game, of course, is not. I mean, yeah, 143 points is. You're going to win every game. You score 143.
You should.
But the Warriors are just terrible right now. Yeah, they're playing without Steph Curry. He's going to be out, a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt him bad.
It is going to hurt him bad, but they'll figure when he comes back. They'll figure it out, climb up enough. They'll be in the playoffs. But
oh yeah.
But
the West is weak.
It's the West is weak. Nets are just scoring a ton of points.
The last time the Bucs and the Nets played, it was at the Bucs, and the Bucs won 110-99. But now they're at Brooklyn, so I think that'll be.
I like Milwaukee. I think they do what we just said no one does, is they play defense. They lost to Cleveland, but only gave up 114 points. They held Utah to 97. Memphis, obviously, they gave up 142 to the Grizzlies, but they were in the zone. I just like Milwaukee and their defense against the Nets.
How many did you say they're on a win streak right now?
They're 9-1.
Yep.
9-1 of their last 10.
Yep.
That's huge.
Yep. That means they're due for a loss, right?
Because if you look at their last 5, so Golden State was at home for Brooklyn, but then on the road at Detroit, on the road at Toronto, on the road at Washington, and then on the road at Indiana. Didn't matter. We're going to go in and smack you around and dunk on you a couple times. 2 teams that have all the talent in the world, but still hovering probably around that 500 mark are the Bills. The Bulls and the Knicks. The Knicks are 18-14, and the Bulls are at 13-18 currently. That's another Friday game.
And the Bulls are starting to play good, aren't they? I mean, I've seen the last couple of games. Ball's back in the mix. He's doing his thing. I'm not a big Ball fan, Lonzo Ball, but I can't argue what he does with this Bulls team with Levine and DeRozan. They just won the other night with two of their big. They beat Miami, and not Butler. Two of the Bulls' biggest players didn't even play. So I think the Bulls are getting it done again. The Knicks, though, they're so up and down. They'll win a couple games. You're like, okay, they're going to make a noise in the East. They are 18-14, and then they'll lose. And you'll be like, oh, okay, like 150 to Minnesota. How do you give up 150 to Minnesota? But they won. Sorry, that was the Bulls. New York just lost at Toronto against Toronto, and they beat obviously Golden State at home. Knicks have won 4 of the last 5. I really like the way Chicago's playing the last few games.
I don't understand what goes through.
I don't know
what happens in Chicago, because Chicago can beat some of the best teams in the league and then lay an egg the very next game.
And I'm reading now. It looks like Lonzo Ball's out again, out for the December 21st, and Javonte Green's out also.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd have to take the Knicks in this game. Then
the Bulls are nicked up, definitely.
Yeah.
Caruso's day to day, Dragic is day to day, Derek Jones Jr.'s day to day, and Ball is out, and so is Javonte Green. So yeah, I'm going to say the Knicks all day long, just for the fact that the Bulls and the Knicks have already played 2 games in their regular season series. This is game 3. They've both been played in Chicago, and they're split. The Bulls won once, and the Knicks won once. I take that back.
No, I think the Knicks won.
I take that back. The Knicks won both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One in overtime, and then kind of a blowout in the other one.
6 days ago, the Knicks beat the Bulls 114-91. And the Knicks were on an 8-game winning streak before losing last night.
Yeah.
So they're playing good ball.
They are, yeah. Randall has found a home in New York for sure. Julius Randle.
Speaking of homes, moving on to the next game, the Phoenix Suns could find a new owner. So
saw that.
So the owner,
$4 billion or something, right?
Yeah.
And they're throwing in. I don't know if you noticed, but they're putting in the WNBA team. I don't know their team.
Oh, the Mercury. I think
is it?
Is it?
Yeah,
I think it's the
that's
Phoenix
part of the
Mercury.
sale. So he's going to sell the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, and he's adding the WNBA team with it also. So maybe that's why the price tag is so high. I don't know. I thought that was a little high. Nothing against the Phoenix Suns. But yeah, so he's adding in the WNBA team, part of that sale. Obviously, I don't think it has anything to do with the team playing. A lot of talent on their team also. Won 3 of their last 5. Did lose against Washington, which is a head scratcher for me. But I just like Memphis too much. John Morant, I think, should be the MVP. He turns the game around every time. He can score and play defense, as small as he is.
Currently, both teams have 19 wins, which is a little bit of a head scratcher for me, because I feel both of them could win more with the amount of talent that they have.
Right.
And Memphis is young, so there's no ceiling for these guys as far as how well they improve. In my mind, they should. But I'm going to give the slight edge to Phoenix. I hope.
At home?
Yeah, just because it's at home. I hope Memphis and Ja Morant and his young core around him can get it done. They don't have any injuries. The Suns are looking at a few people that are out. Devin Booker's day-to-day. Cameron Payne is out. Cameron Johnson's out. So, again, early in the season, not even to the trade deadline, not even to the All-Star break. So, a lot can happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that can happen, especially after the trade deadline, where teams decide, oh, hey, let's play defense.
And maybe the Grizz make a move and get Morant, Ja, one more body, one more big score. You know, he's averaging 27 and 6 right now on his own. Just get a little bit help.
What would they give up? Though their core can play so good together.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every team is like 1 or 2 moves away from a title.
Yeah.
If they play together.
Right. And the Grizzlies pushed, was it Golden State last year, right? and then Morant went out that last game 7. So who knows what would have happened? The Boston could have won it all if they didn't have to play the darn
Warriors.
Golden State Warriors, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so yeah, the Grizzlies are young, they're hungry, and I'm glad they kept it going over to this year, ended like they did last year, and keep it going on.
Out of the last 3 games that Memphis has played, the one score that jumped out at me is when they were at home against the Bucs, 142-101.
No.
The rim must have been the size of the ocean. Like,
Right.
just throw it in, throw it in. It's going in. It's going in.
And I wanted hey, we're going against one of the better teams in the East. We got to step our game up, see where we match up. And yeah, they were, when you get 3 or 4 guys that's in the zone, wow. Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, that Ja Morant's getting he's the most exciting player in the NBA. And that's, rooting for him is not a bad thing. I like the kid. He's a small guy.
For a
playing in a big league.
Yeah, he's 6'2", and he jumps like he's 6'7".
Yeah, so
oh my goodness,
he's exciting to watch.
Yeah,
That was our lineup, guys. Any parting thoughts or anything else that you need to add? I was going to say, I think I interrupted you there.
No, he's like Mike Bibby, but dunks. Mike Bibby was great to watch, can handle the ball, move, not quite Jason Kidd-esque, but could score and do all these different things. But then now you had Ja Morant. To me, he reminds me a lot of Bibby, except for the 3-pointing, he dunks. Bibby had the 3-point shot. Ja Morant will dunk on you. I don't care if you're 7'2" or 6'4". I'm going up. Stop me.
Right.
I love it.
It's that mentality, like, you can't stop me.
Yeah. And he doesn't throw himself to the floor all the time. Like Derrick Rose. Just always when he went to the hoop, he's always throwing himself on the ground. And then his career was short. And I'm like, dude, you can't just keep... it's okay to land on your feet. Some of these NBA players just forget, well, if I fall down, maybe they'll blow the whistle. No, they're just going to inbound the ball and go the other direction while you're picking yourself off the baseline. So go ahead and land on your feet. It's okay.
Ask some vets that can barely walk. All the bruises add up.
Yes. Yeah. Best thing to quit landing on the floor. It will hurt over time.
Yeah. I got to bring up baseball.
Let's do it.
New York Mets.
Oh my gosh.
That was a huge swing.
What is going on with baseball?
Did they win the Powerball and we don't know it? Was it the ones that won the
Steve
$4
Cohen
billion?
just wants to spend some money.
Good grief.
Over $800 million in transactions this year.
Just this year.
Yeah.
Okay, but the most recent one was eye-opening. The Giants passed on...
well, they had an injury thing.
A medical issue.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's had back issues.
Right.
But they knew that before they tried to sign him, and then they got scared. They knew it was there.
So, yeah, and I don't understand how that works. I mean, it's just immediate. As soon as the Mets found this out, 3 a.m. in the morning.
They're phone calling.
Yeah, they're phone calling and bam, deal gets done.
Yeah.
Well, we don't care about his back. We don't care what. I don't even know if they're going to give him a physical. They'll just put him on the team. I don't know exactly how that worked out. But
yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. So, he's in San Francisco, going to be signing it. They're like, oh, well, it just got brought to my attention that you have this. So we want to look it over for another day. And the Mets are like, well, let's make the phone call.
Okay, when you haven't mentioned his name yet, Carlos Carrera. So everybody knows who we're talking about.
Yep, sorry.
12-year, $350 million deal, was originally going to go and do a deal with the Giants, had his physical. They looked at, I'm guessing, MRIs and all the stuff of his spine and go, oh, hey, what's going with this? What's going with this? Yeah, we're gonna pass. And the Mets come in and go, yeah, sure, we'll love you.
Yeah, you go to bed thinking he's signing with because they're on the West Coast, so it's later. Yeah. So you go to bed and like, okay, it looks like the Giants got Carrera. And then you wake up the next morning, breaking news, Mets sign him. And you're like, who? Did you answer your phone at 2 a.m, Carlos? Really?
They had planned a party for his signing. And instead of the party, they just did a little one-line, because of the physical, we've decided to move on. We wish him the best of luck, blah, blah, blah.
Done. Moving on. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're a Mets fan, don't worry. Lindor's staying at short. They're moving Carlos over to third. So Lindor will stay as your shortstop. But, over $800 million they're spending because they got Verlander also. I mean, they're taking a page out of the Yankees book. Maybe we can get some of these guys before they're too old. But I'm letting you know that doesn't happen very well.
Yeah. Yeah, the Mets payroll this year is going to be in north of the $350 million range. with luxury tax and everything, their payroll is almost $500 million.
Woo!
And listening to the radio coming up here, a guy was talking about this very thing. Steve Cohen spending all this money, 120 plus million of it going for this luxury tax. Well, this is kind of like the revenue sharing type thing, I guess.
Yes.
This money goes to these smaller teams.
Yes.
And so they're getting this money from these higher market teams to build their rosters up to compete.
And they're not.
And they're not. So
last year,
that was kind of the issue on the radio was like half the people are like, oh, the Mets are ruining the game by spending all this money. But then other people are like, well, they're only basically spending money and then they're giving even more money to these smaller teams to make their teams better. But the owners are like, God, man, I could use $50 million in my pocket rather than some starting pitcher or something. So they're not spending it.
We got in this conversation last year. Somebody was talking about, because I'm a Yankees fan, obviously, and they're like, oh, they just buy championships. I was like, you guys should be happy as a Kansas City fan. I said, you guys should be happy with that because the teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, Anaheim, who is consistently over, give all you small market teams money every year to sign. There's a rule in there that in baseball, they have to put a lot of that money towards re-signing their own players or signing free agents. And like you're saying, the owners or the team or the GMs, whoever passes on it and gives it to whatever, or puts it in somewhere else. But yes, you're 100% correct. If these lower teams, these Kansas City, Arizonas, even St. Louis's, they use it mostly. If they would use that money correctly and sign these guys, you wouldn't have a team like the Mets that far over because they'd be able to sign one of those guys. But they don't. The luxury tax is there. It's not coming out of the owner's pocket. It's a free 70, 80 million from each one of these teams because it's not just the Mets. You know, obviously the Yankees, Anaheim, Boston, the Dodgers are all over. They all put all this money in, and then everyone below the cap gets divvied out X amount of dollars, whatever their formula is. So it's not like the owner's like, oh, well, we're small market. We don't need money. We just gave you $47 million on top of whatever you already had. Yeah, well, we need a new fountain in our outfield.
Yeah. $300 million. That sounds like an awful lot of money to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're paying him $315 million over the next 12 years to play out of position. He's a shortstop. I mean, the Padres were doing the same thing when they were offering Trey Turner all that money. And he flipped to go to Philadelphia instead.
Right.
But I would think you could use $300 million better.
2 players opposed to 1?
2 players, 3 players opposed to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Starting pitchers, relief pitchers. I mean, hell, you could probably get 10 relief pitchers for $300 million. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't quite get what baseball's doing there. You know, signing all these players to play out of position.
Yep.
Well, I think the Blue Jays did the same thing. Or no, Marcus Semien was the second baseman.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, the Texas Rangers, they spent $500, $600, $700 million on what, 3 players? Semien, Seager, and now the pitcher, Jacob deGrom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Mets ain't the only team spending money crazy.
No, exactly.
Padres, Rangers.
The Padres, first one to come to my head. They're going to be another one over the cap that'll be paying in the luxury tax.
Yeah.
You know, Yankees did it with A-Rod. You know, he was a shortstop. Like, oh, are they going to move Jeter? No. A-Rod's going to go to third.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, if you have 2 guys with good range, strong arms, playing short and third, I mean, that's a blessing. But again, I think with Carlos's back issues and stuff, third base might be better not having a range back and forth. And oh, by the way, there's no shift next year. So he don't have to worry about playing short during the shift.
Yep.
The way I look at it, you're either going to look like a genius by spending all that money and winning a title.
Right.
Or you're going to look like a fool where they don't gel as teammates.
Yeah, and don't even make it to the playoffs.
And don't even make it to the playoffs. All right, gentlemen, any other parting thoughts?
Yeah, so we have a game tonight, football, another Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. The Air Force is playing Baylor. Baylor's coming in 3.5 points. As a former Air Force guy, I'm taking the Air Force, of course, and I'm going to go with that offense. Baylor has played well. but I just don't think they play really good D. And if Air Force can keep the ball, the possession, and move the chains and steal a few field goals and sneak in a touchdown, I like the Air Force to win. I don't even know what the over-unders are. Let's see here. You guys
Baylor's
like
favored
that?
by 3.5. Overs
Yep.
are set at 43.5.
Yeah, I like that right there. So, yep, I'll take the Air Force. I mean, points, no points. I think they win this one.
Here's a key point. You just mentioned this game, and I brought it up. Then they're playing at Amon G. Carter Stadium, which is an outdoor stadium, and the game time weather potentially could be in the teens.
Yes.
So I don't know if there's necessarily any team that has a advantage when you play in weather in the teens.
The team that runs the ball. But if I just have to turn around and hand it to you, as opposed to try to grip the ball and throw it, I'll take the handoff team.
Then I'm going to say Air Force all day long because they allow under 14 points a game. They allow under 100 yards rushing a game, and they allow under 157 yards passing a game. So,
yeah,
I'm right there with you. I don't know why Baylor is even favored.
You look at the schedule. I mean, Air Force doesn't have a tough schedule like Baylor might have played in the Big 12, if you consider that. But they did win 9 games, and like you said, you still held opponents. It's not was like shootouts,
Well, fair enough. San Diego State, Colorado State, University of New Mexico, Army, and they lost to Boise 19-14. So
again, Boise team that held them to 19 points. I like it. But yeah, so we got that tonight. Another bowl game. Yesterday was a not big upset, but South Alabama from Conference USA is now 0 since they've been Division I teams in bowl games. So Conference USA just hasn't yet to get that bowl win for them. They look really good during the season. A few upsets here and there across the nation, but they can't get that elusive bowl win for themselves. But one thing I want to say, so you guys heard the talk about the turf versus grass in football, and players are start saying turf is unsafe. We want to go back to all natural grass and blah, 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 blah. Does anybody remember a few years ago when, I forget, I want to say it was the Bears. It was either Chicago or Lambeau. They went to play in there and it had rained the night before. The grass was loose and players were slipping and their footing were going out. Right. And a couple groins got pulled and they're like, this is, why do we even have grass anymore? Technology, blah, 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 blah. So we're going against away from turf. And I think the turf thing with the owners and them have to spend is after 3 or 4 years of playing and the weather on that turf, you need to replace it. It does get beat down. Those pebbles get smaller or disappear as they get kicked off the field. You have to upgrade it. That turf, you can make it, the new pebbles that they got going gives a little bit more, not as much as grass, but it does give. And in the cold, when you're looking at it, hard grass, dirt, when you're talking about Lambeau and Chicago field and that grass, is just as hard as a turf field. I'm sorry. Frozen is frozen. It doesn't matter if it's grass or turf. So throw that argument right out the window. Yeah. Sorry. But in the rain, at least you still have a little bit of grip on turf. Then in grass, when that sod is just going to rip, or we let it grow a little longer because we wanted to slow down the Rams and their greatest speed on turf type thing. We let the grass grow a little bit longer. Well, now you got cleats and they're grabbing and all that. So I just don't agree with this. It's just a new feeling that everybody wants to just jump on the bandwagon and go back to grass. I'm sorry. I just don't agree with that. I like the turf.
No, I get it. They change their minds back and forth, whatever happens to work for them that week. So,
right.
Yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Yeah. No, I'm good.
I'm going to give you one quote here by Vince Lombardi.
Oh, the man.
Everyone has the will to win, but very few have the will to prepare to win. The Cowboys need to figure that out. The Celtics need to figure that out.
Yes.
And every other team that's losing needs to figure that out.
Oh, so the Devils, they were 0-6, and they came in last night. They were down 1-0. Then they tied it 1-1. Then they're down 2-1. Then they tied it 2-2. And I'm like, oh, great. They're going to lose this game 3-2. No, they scored that third goal, go 3-2. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And I was getting to watch it. It was a slower night. But anyway, I'm like, okay. So I'm watching majority of the third period. They pull the goalie. Florida's down there, and you're talking about the will. And you can tell New Jersey knows they hadn't won in 6 games. and they are trying to get, and Florida has a couple of nice scoring chances. Goalie made some nice saves. They hit an empty net on the other end, and it just misses wide, right? So all the guys are down there fighting for this puck, and the Devils refuse to let it get outside the zone and end up getting it into the empty net. You figure no goalie, and you got 4 or 5 guys trying to battle, get this puck. Florida's trying to clear it out of the blue zone, out of the zone, get them off sides. Devils are trying to keep it in so they can at least get another flip at the net. It was a flurry of, I was like, oh, I didn't even know where the puck was sometimes. And I'm like, that was your will right there. They're like, we have lost 6 straight. We are not losing this game in overtime. And they battled and willed their way and got the, an empty netter and ended up winning 4-2.
Triple overtime win by the Huskers and an amazing finish in hockey. That's why I love sports.
Love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, for James, Roger, this is Darrell.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Go watch some sports.